Sometimes a headline lands with more force than it probably should. At 61, Hoda finally tells the truth about Savannah. It's the kind of line that makes you pause mid-scroll, not because you expect scandal, but because you sense something tender underneath it. Over the past few weeks, with Savannah stepping back from the desk to focus on her family, emotions have already been running high among viewers. So when Hoda Kotb returned to Studio 1A and spoke from the heart, people leaned in, not for drama, but for clarity. What she shared wasn't explosive in the tabloid sense. It was personal, reflective, the kind of honesty that only surfaces after years of shared mournings, shared grief, and shared growth. And sometimes, that kind of truth feels more powerful than any bombshell ever could. A studio that felt different. It was a familiar set, the orange couch, the warm lights, the hum of early morning energy. But something felt softer that day. Today has weathered many chapters, and its audience has grown used to the rhythm of its anchors. When Hoda stepped back into that space, there was comfort in seeing her again. But there was also weight in the air. Savannah's absence was noticeable, and not just professionally. For years, viewers watched the chemistry between Hoda and Savannah Guthrie unfold naturally. Laughter that felt unscripted, moments of visible support, and the kind of shorthand that only comes from real friendship. So when Hoda leaned forward and said she had never fully told a certain story before, it didn't feel like a tease. It felt like a door opening. Hoda's long road to that couch. Understanding why her words mattered begins with understanding Hoda's journey. Born in Oklahoma to Egyptian parents who built a life through grit and persistence, she grew up watching resilience modeled daily. Long before national television, she was covering small-town stories, learning how to listen deeply. Her reporting took her from local stations to global crises, through moments that tested her courage and compassion. When she publicly shared her battle with breast cancer years ago, she did so with the same transparency she brings to everything. That openness became her signature. It's why audiences trust her. When she speaks about friendship or fear, it doesn't feel rehearsed. It feels lived in. So when she spoke about Savannah, viewers sensed that whatever she said would come from a place of experience, not performance. The beginning of a partnership. When Hoda and Savannah began co-anchoring together, it was during a transitional time for the show and the network. Change can strain even seasoned professionals, but something about their pairing clicked. Savannah's sharp legal mind balanced Hoda's emotional intuition. Where one leaned analytical, the other leaned instinctive. Over time, they developed rituals, quick check-ins before broadcast, shared looks across the desk, small reassurances when segments went long or emotions ran high. Viewers saw the on-air version, but off-camera, the bond deepened through life events, weddings, adoptions, children growing up, quiet conversations after difficult interviews. Those layers built something sturdier than coworker camaraderie. They built chosen family, and chosen family carries its own depth of loyalty. The night she finally described Hoda's story centered on a night years earlier when both women were facing private uncertainty. She didn't share it to expose Savannah, but to humanize her. According to Hoda, there was a moment behind the scenes when Savannah questioned herself in a way viewers would never suspect. Career pressure mixed with personal worry can create cracks even in the strongest exterior. Hoda described sitting with her in a quiet room after the lights were off, the adrenaline gone, the real feelings surfacing. There were no cameras, no scripts, just two women navigating vulnerability. In that moment, they made an unspoken agreement, no pretending with each other. The world could see the polished version, but they would see the real one. That pact, Hoda implied, shaped everything that followed. Friendship isn't always effortless. It's tempting to romanticize close friendships, especially between public figures. But Hoda acknowledged something refreshingly honest. Even strong bonds experience tension. Different seasons of life bring different emotions. Joy for one can coincide with grief for another. Career milestones don't always arrive at convenient times. She didn't frame those differences as rivalry, but as reality. What kept them steady, she said, was conversation. When something felt off, they talked. When insecurity crept in, they named it. That transparency prevented small misunderstandings from growing larger. It's a reminder that sisterhood isn't defined by the absence of strain. It's defined by the willingness to work through it. And hearing that from someone as warm and grounded as Hoda made the sentiment resonate. The influence of family. During her reflection, Hoda spoke gently about Savannah's devotion to her family and how deeply it shapes her. She described Savannah not just as a colleague, but as a daughter who carries her upbringing closely. The expectations, the lessons about resilience, the belief in standing tall during adversity, all of it informs how she moves through public life. Hoda didn't present this as burden alone. She framed it as legacy, but she also suggested that sometimes strength can become armor that's hard to set down. Her message was subtle but clear. Even the strongest among us deserve permission to rest, to falter, to ask for help. And sometimes it takes a friend to remind you of that when your instinct is to power through. Why speak now? The timing of Hoda's honesty wasn't accidental, but it also wasn't strategic in a cynical sense. She explained that watching Savannah navigate a challenging season made her reflect on the importance of telling the full story of their friendship. Viewers often see only the highlight reel. They don't see the nights of doubt or the moments of reassurance whispered off camera. By sharing that memory, Hoda seemed to be offering support in the most public way possible by affirming Savannah's humanity. It was less about revealing a secret and more about reinforcing a truth that strength and vulnerability can coexist. And sometimes, telling a story from the past is a way of saying, "You're not alone now." The public reaction. Unsurprisingly, audiences responded immediately. Social media lit up with clips and commentary. Some praised the authenticity. Others speculated about deeper meanings. But the overwhelming tone was gratitude. People connected to the idea that even accomplished, confident women still wrestle with self-doubt. The story became less about celebrity and more about shared experience. In workplaces everywhere, friendships like theirs exist quietly, two people holding each other steady through invisible storms. Seeing that dynamic mirrored on a national stage felt validating. It reminded viewers that resilience doesn't mean isolation. It can mean partnership. And in a media landscape often fueled by division, witnessing visible loyalty felt grounding, more than a truth. In the end, the so-called bombshell wasn't a scandal. It was a confession of care. Hoda didn't reveal betrayal or rivalry. She revealed a memory that underscored why their partnership works. She reminded viewers that behind the smooth broadcasts are real relationships forged in early mornings and late-night doubts. And perhaps the real truth she told was simpler than any headline suggested. Savannah is not just a co-anchor. She is a friend worth protecting, a woman who has carried others and sometimes needs carrying herself. That kind of honesty may not shatter the internet, but it builds something more enduring. It builds understanding. And in times of uncertainty, understanding matters far more than spectacle.